some language problem.
Context of the Second World War, the imperialist countries embarked on a relentless campaign to distort historical truth, seeking to shift blame for fascism onto the Soviet Union, while whitewashing the role of Western imperialism in enabling Nazi Germany. This ideological warfare did not end with the end of the Cold War. Instead, it has intensified in recent years, particularly with the outbreak of the conflict in Ukraine. Today, the imperialist West is experiencing a resurgence of fascist tendencies, driven by the deepening crisis of monopoly capitalism and the bourgeoisie's fear of revolutionary upheaval. The war in Ukraine has become a key lever for the Nazification of Western society, as ruling elites seek to rehabilitate fascist collaborators, suppress communist movements, and rewrite history to serve their class interests. Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact to contemporary anti-communism. Immediately after the Second World War, Western propaganda outlets launched a campaign to equate the USSR with Nazi Germany, focusing particularly on the 1939 Non-Aggression Pact between the two states. Stalin responded to these distortions in his 1948 pamphlet, The Distortionists of History, exposing how the imperialists sought to downplay its own complicity in fascism's rise while vilifying the Soviet Union, which had borne the brunt of war against Nazism and sacrificed millions to defeat it. Today, the imperialist propaganda machine is trying to rewrite the history of the war against the Nazis. According to their narrative, US forces saved Europe from fascism. The famous Normandy landings, the invasions of Italy, and so on. They claim the US-British alliance finished off Nazi Germany. In fact, 80% of the German army's casualties in the war, 4 out of every 5 German soldiers, died in clashes with the Red Army. On the other hand, it is instructive to compare the number of the US and Red Army soldiers who died in clashes with the Germans during the war. 80 Red Army soldiers for every 1 US soldier. In 1942, 80% of the German ground troops were in the Western Front. Obviously, all fascist troops were fighting against the Red Army. However, this second front from the West did not open in the time. Moreover, the Anglo-American powers all knew that the Germans were anti-fascist war and resistance to many fronts. The Soviet Union's pivotal role on the Eastern Front, partisan movements in occupied Europe, and the anti-colonial rises in Asia and Africa. The Soviet Union sacrifices 27 million dead, and its defeat of 80% of Nazi forces cemented socialism as a bulwark against fascism. Imperialist powers like Britain and France were fighting fascist forces in Europe and North Africa, while trying to preserve their colonial empires. When the US representative Wilkie demanded the preemptive dissolution of British and French Empire, Churchill famously replied, "I have not become the king's first minister to preside over the liquidation of British Empire." These are only some of the facts. However, today, this historical revisionism has reached a new height. Western propaganda systematically downplays the role of the Red Army in defeating fascism, instead promoting narratives that equate communism with Nazism. Monuments to Soviet soldiers are torn down across Eastern Europe, while collaborators with the Nazi regime, such as Stepan Bandera in Ukraine, are glorified as national heroes. This is not an accident, but a deliberate ideological project aimed at erasing the legacy of anti-fascist resistance and justifying the imperialists' own turn toward authoritarianism. Attempts to Nazify of Western societies. The war in Ukraine has accelerated the efforts of the imperialist monopolies to strengthen fascist tendencies in Western societies. NATO-backed regimes in Europe and North America have embraced far-right extremists, integrating them into state structures while suppressing revolutionary democratic socialist opposition. In Ukraine, openly neo-Nazi battalions like the Azov regiment have been armed, funded, and facilitated by Western governments, despite their well-documented history of racism and terrorism. Meanwhile, in Europe and the US, anti-communism has become state policy. Communist parties are banned in some countries, socialist movements are smeared as foreign agents, and historical memory is manipulated to portray fascism as a lesser evil compared to communism. This ideological orientation is not merely rhetorical. It reflects the material interests of the imperialist bourgeoisie. As the global capitalist crisis deepens, the ruling class increasingly relies on fascist methods to maintain control. The suppression of workers' movements, the militarization of police, and the scapegoating of minorities and leftists are hallmarks of these processes. The West's support for Ukraine fascism is not an exception but a template for its own future. A fascist state in which revolutionary communist forces and democratic opposition are crushed out under the guise of national security. Fascism as a bourgeoisie's response to revolutionary crisis. The current global situation is marked by deepening economic crisis, imperialist aggression, and rising uprisings and social revolutions against bourgeoisie rule and the capitalist system of exploitation. As we described a quarter century ago, it's a global civil war, global revolutionary situation, in brief, a new stage in the history of class struggle. From mass protests in France, to strike across the US and the growing influence to socialist movements in Latin America. The capitalist system is facing unprecedented challenges. In response, the bourgeoisie resorts to fascism, not as a deviation, but as a logical instrument of monopoly capital in crisis, as an act of counter-revolution. Fascism has always been the weapon of the monopoly capitalist class. When bourgeoisie democracy fails to contain revolutionary movements. In the 1930s, German industrialists funded Hitler to crush the communist threat. Today, Western oligarchies and militarists promote fascist forces to prevent the resurgence of socialism. The demonization of Russia and China, the escalation of militarism, and the suspension of social revolution movement through thought are all part of this strategy. Conclusion. The imperialist West is returning to its fascist roots, not by accident, but by necessity. As capitalism enters this terminal crisis, the bourgeoisie can no longer rule through democracy. It must resort to repression, historical falsification, and outright fascism. The war in Ukraine is both a symptom of an accelerator of this process, serving as a testing ground for the imperialist Western countries' own descent into authoritarianism. The task of revolutionaries today is to expose this reactionary fascist orientation, defend the truth of history, and build a militant anti-fascist resistance. The struggle against contemporary fascism is inseparable from the struggle against imperialism and capitalism itself. Only by overthrowing the decaying system that breeds fascism and humanity can humanity finally achieve liberation. Historical experience has proven that fascism can be defeated through mass mobilization under the command of communist forces. Today, as neo-fascism re-emerges, this history reminds us once again that belligerence and internationalism are essential. It underlines in bold lines that in order to defeat fascism, it is necessary to take advantage of crisis of capitalism for the revolution of the working peoples, to overthrow the monopoly capitalist order, which is the material basis of fascism, and to establish the power of workers and toilers.